Hey, what's going on everybody? Selage here. I think we can all agree that Season 10 was a dark time for Fortnite. In between mechs and terrible updates, for example like removing turbo build, it was clear that Fortnite almost died due to these changes. But luckily, Chapter 2 has brought back some much needed freshness to Fortnite. But is it enough to keep the game alive? As annoying as the constant inclusion of new weapons was in Season 10, was that what kept the game fresh and fun? We're going to talk about all this and more in today's video. But I want to hear your opinion down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about Chapter 2, and if you guys agree or disagree with anything that we talk about in today's video. Let me know down below. Now I've teamed up with GameLeap so you can get even more Fortnite content. They're just entering the scene, but their videos are still free and absolutely amazing. I wouldn't be recommending GameLeap if I didn't truly believe that you'll learn an absolute ton from their channel. Make sure to check them out right here. I think one of my most favorite changes this season was the map. I know a lot of people as well have been asking for a fresh map for a while, and I think a lot of that's due to the fact the storyline clustered the old map too much. Now we haven't really seen too much of a storyline in this map, which I'm sure will come into terms more farther down in the timeline, but right now we're sitting at a really fresh and clean map that I like a lot more than the other one because there's more variance in between POIs. If you look at somewhere like Steamy Stacks, it has that kind of industrial nuclear plant feel in comparison to somewhere like Misty Meadows, which has an older, kind of not so modern feel to it. If you think back to the old map, there really wasn't a lot of difference in theme in comparison to the new map. We had retail, salty, pleasant, and greasy that were all suburbs. I know we got some sections with the desert and the winter biome, but those really weren't too crazy. We saw maybe one or two new POIs, but they still really didn't stand out to me. I think this new map does a really great job at kind of spreading players out and not having a place where everybody drops like Tilted. Another part about the season I love a lot is the 100% loot and chest spawn rate. It kind of reduces the RNG of landing at a building when you're contesting somebody or overall with a POI. A lot of the times players would focus going areas where there's a lot of loot because that way they kind of luck out on chests. They're going to have a lot more left over that they could possibly get. For example, Tilted was packed with loot in comparison to somewhere like Fatal where there was really only a couple of big areas. Something that I thought was absolutely stupid at the beginning of this season was fishing. Now, since then, I've realized how important it actually is, and it's probably one of my favorite aspects of this season. The fact that you can go out and farm your team floppers, slurps, and all of that is a really great way to negate the RNG aspect of Fortnite, which is really hard considering it's a battle royale. But even further than that, now that fishing rods and the harpoon guns can be used to pick up loot in endgame, it's become even better. It's a great way to grab loot from players who you might have knocked a little bit far away, or loot that's fallen out in a storm. And surprisingly enough, I've seen a lot of pro teams carry their fishing rods or their harpoon guns into late game for that exact reason. The amount of mats you can grab sometimes can really save a team and get them out of being shambles. Now last season we saw updates every single week, and every 2 weeks we'd get a new item. And let's be honest, a lot of the times the items were seriously broken or just annoying to play against or with. This season we've only seen one item, and that's the harpoon gun, which I think we can all agree is a very balanced weapon and it really doesn't bring too much to the table. But it's still really usable in certain situations, and that's what I like about it a lot. It's not something that's going to force players to use it, like for example if you found a heavy sniper last season or an RPG, those are things that you have to take with you because they were so good. Now this season we've really seen a quite limited loot pool, but is that better or does that make the game more straightforward? And if you look at this season, at least for guns in terms of loadout, it's basically shotgun, AR, and then either a sniper or a RPG, which in comparison to past seasons is a pretty straightforward loadout. You don't have crazy things like shockwaves or impulses or deagles or anything really that out of the ordinary, which for me, I love this. These are the guns that I would use last season anyways, and I'd really opt out for some of the more crazier weapons. But I'm more on the competitive side of Fortnite. So my opinion for me is a rather straightforward game makes it more balanced, especially when you're playing against players who are just as good as you. Because, for example, say I have a junk rift and the other player does not. That's going to give me a pretty strong advantage regardless of how good that other player is. But I am on the competitive side, like I said. What about a player who just jumps on after school or after work looking to have fun? This probably isn't the best meta for them. And I'm not trying to mean that in a negative way. Fortnite does have a really unique aspect to it with building and the ability to add insane items like junk rifts, because these items really aren't that out of the ordinary for a game like this. It has that cartoony nature unlike a game like PUBG, where they probably could never add an item like a junk rift. So it is really unique to see these cool items added into Fortnite, but what if they kind of split it up? I wouldn't mind having crazy items within public matches or in LTM modes, maybe that come in for 2 weeks and leave, but not in arena mode, because arena mode is supposed to be competitive, and these straightforward kind of limited loot pools make a much more balanced version of Fortnite. Now public matches, that's kind of where the fun happens, and if any pro player complains about a pub match and the meta within a pub match, they're kind of complaining about something completely irrelevant to them. Now, even though bots are a great addition for lower skilled players, I don't think they're great for duos or squads yet, because skill-based matchmaking has yet to be implemented in either of those modes. And a lot of times when I'm getting footage for videos, I'm playing regular duos, and I run into way too many bots during those games. And there's really not too much substance to those fights. The bots don't have too much skills, and they basically just stand still for the most part, or just run in a straight line. They don't really build, and then when they shoot back, they typically always miss. So for somebody like me, I don't find them fun to fight against. So they're more of like a kind of a nuisance, as they'll just kind of annoy me if I leave them there. So for the most part, I don't think they're really good for players who are of higher skill level, and I wish there was a way we could toggle them on and off, so that way we can decide if we want to play against a full lobby of actual players, or if we want the extras to be filled in with bots. This season we've also seen a really good change in movement. There's not a million things that can take you across the map like past seasons. We basically just have boats, your feet, and the water. And I don't think we've really seen this little amount since season 1 or 2 before jump pads were introduced. And I think it's a really good change, because you see a lot, especially in pro play, a lot of the really good players moving early and finding those good positions that they don't have to rely on jump pads or rifts to fly to in the end game. Now what's nice as well, the boats aren't very protective. They're kind of similar to ATKs, where you can shoot at the players inside of them no problem, and they can't really shoot back as well. They're most likely going to get beamed way more than you will get beamed back from them. This season we also see a pretty balanced movement tool in terms of boats. In comparison to past seasons where we've had mechs and planes, which are very overpowered because they can put a ton of damage before getting shot out. Boats have a missile, but it's really not that good because you can dodge it if you're not standing still or AFK, because it shoots very slow. But I would like to see one more item being added in for rotation, such as like an ATK or a hoverboard, or maybe even a quad that doesn't have the ability to fly across the map. All three of those would be a really great addition, but I could totally see the ATK being added, especially with the FNCS being squads this season. Having a ATK that can hold 4 players would be pretty cool to see. I think they were probably one of the more balanced items as well, because you can really only shoot out of them like you can with the boat, and there's no gun at all attached to it, and rotating with it is somewhat slow, but it is faster than walking. And instead of having the boat drive on land, you could actually have an item that is meant to be driven on land as an item within the meta. Even though Chapter 2 is far better than Season 10, is it enough to keep the game enjoyable for both casual and competitive players? In my opinion, Chapter 2 has done a great job with keeping the game to a much simpler version, and does not have the unnecessary items that can one-shot you out of nowhere. I think Chapter 2, for me at least, has reignited the fun aspect of Fortnite, and things that I thought were corny at the beginning, such as fishing, have become one of my favorite parts of the season. Let me know your opinion down in the comments on whether or not this season has brought you back, or if it's pushed you away from playing so much. I'm really curious to see all of your opinions down below. GameLeap stands out from most resources as they focus on keeping all of their courses and content on YouTube updated as much as possible. That way you know you're getting tips that are actually relevant to the current meta in Fortnite, as it changes quite often. Their new YouTube channel already is putting out some great videos that you don't want to miss. Their content is similar to mine. It's built to help you guys get better and improve you guys as much as possible. They're going to be linked in the description and as well on screen now. Head over and subscribe to them to start learning more.